net neutrality is the principle that all websites should be treated equal, and that some should not be slowed down or sped up based on who pays the internet service providers a bigger fee. So now the internet service providers are not in favor of net neutrality. They want to get rid of the government regulating them under what they call Title II, which is another way of getting net neutrality, which is a situation we have now that we've always had. The internet is for everyone. But the internet service providers want to change that. Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, and some of the others. Why? If they're providing the pipes for the internet, they say, I should be able to charge whatever I want, and if you pay me a big enough ransom, fee for my services, you will have a very speedy connection. And if you don't, well, then you won't have a very speedy connection. Now, Comcast says, no, we're for an open internet, but we'd like the ability legally to be able to do all that, slow up, speed up, and do all these different things. And by the way, if you speak out against us, whether you pay or you don't pay, maybe we slow you down anyway. So now, folks online are not happy about this. Regular people aren't happy about it. 5.1 million people have sent in comments to the FCC, breaking a record, saying, keep net neutrality. Do not listen to the internet service providers. That's crazy. Now, Ajit Pai leads the FCC. He was put in there by Trump. He's a former Verizon lawyer and shockingly agrees with the Verizon and Comcast and those guys, saying, no, they should be able to charge you whatever they want. But don't worry, they'll voluntarily, out of the goodness of their heart, keep an open internet anyway. So obviously also some of the companies online fighting back against this. So good news on that front. Tech companies and activists will be mobilizing supporters of the net neutrality rules on Wednesday for an online, quote, day of action. So that's great. Many websites that have signed up for the demonstration will show their support for net neutrality by displaying alerts warning the public about how the internet could change if the rules are rolled back. I love that. Now let me tell you who's involved, and there's some giant players. The protest has already attracted some of the web's biggest names. Amazon, Reddit, Twitter, Netflix, Etsy, Facebook, and Google are all expected to join in. Now, let's be clear about disclosures here. Some of those groups obviously would have to pay the Comcast of the world more money if this goes into effect to make sure that their giant companies' websites are not slowed down. Now, it was not clear which way they were gonna go because Netflix, Facebook, Google, etc. could have an advantage because they have the money to be able to pay Verizon, AT&T, Comcast. Whereas the smaller outlets that would compete against them would not. But here, those big internet companies did the right thing. And so they're gonna continue to fight for net neutrality, for which I think they deserve a lot of credit. Because some of them might view this as better for their business interests to have net neutrality and protect the internet. But it is possible that some of them would think, hey, this could help kill all of our competition. So it's a 50-50 question, I think, for them. And in that question, the fact that they're doing the right thing is wonderful. Okay, by the way, a disclosure for us, the Young Turks. We have a website that is not a multi-billion-dollar operation. So if they killed net neutrality, we would be susceptible to being slowed down just like the rest of the internet would be susceptible to it. So it might hurt our business interests. But our two biggest partners are Facebook and Google. So because of that, we might actually be in okay shape. But it doesn't matter. No matter where our business interests lie, I am 1000% in favor of net neutrality. I don't know anybody at this company. I know the hosts have a variety of opinions on different issues here, but I don't know any hosts that is against net neutrality here because we all believe in freedom on the internet no matter where our business interests lie. But I wanted to be clear with you guys because now we go to the next story, which is an exclusive brought to you by us. Andrew Jones, writing on TYT Politics, explains Comcast's role in this. First, he explains where their lobbying is, where their money is, and that'll give you a sense of which direction they're going in, which they're not hiding, by the way. Just give you details on how much they care about this. In the first quarter of this year alone, Comcast has spent $300,000 to lobby against net neutrality on Capitol Hill. Okay, so that's a decent amount of money. For you and I, that's a lot of money. For Comcast, a good size money for just one quarter in 1 year. But now let's give you more context. In 2016 alone, Comcast shelled out $1,240,000 to law firms to represent them in lobbying public officials on the topic of net neutrality. That was slightly less than the 2015 total of $1,622,000 spent on the same topic, including $470,000 during the first quarter of 2015 when the FCC voted on that principle. So the reason why they spent a lot in 2015 and now in 2017 is because those are the two times that this issue was brought up. In 2015, the Obama administration decided to keep net neutrality and keep the internet open and free. So Comcast tried to defeat that at that point and spent millions of dollars doing so. In 2017, they get Trump into office. They spend a lot of money to make sure that this time they can kill net neutrality. Okay, so a lot of you might know that about Comcast and the other internet service providers, but Comcast is also a giant media corporation. Are they revealing their interests when they talk about it on air through all the properties that they own? That's interesting. So let's go to that. But despite all of this Comcast spending, Jones reports, their news networks, NBC News, MSNBC, and CNBC, have barely mentioned net neutrality. And they certainly haven't disclosed their company's lobbying on the issue. Okay. Let's go to NBC first. NBC's Nightly News with Lester Holt has had only one full report on net neutrality in 2017. So that's not a lot, but it is the Nightly News, and they have a lot of topics to cover, mainly Russia, but still. In the news report, NBC's News' Tom Costello did disclose that Comcast does own NBC. That's good that they at least disclosed that. He mentioned that in passing, but that's positive, and we're giving you the positives as well here. And in the story, he gave the usual mainstream media thing, both sides of the issue, which is some say that killing net neutrality will end the internet as we know it and will create a new system where there could be fast lanes and slow lanes. He did report something to that effect. And then he said, but the other companies, Comcast, which owns NBC and AT&T, et cetera, say that that the current rules, quote, stifle competition and creativity. Does the internet look like it's lacking in competition and creativity? That's a talking point put out by those corporations. Now, this is my general criticism of the mainstream media altogether, which is, okay, Tom, you just gave the two sides, but which one is it? You're a reporter. So does net neutrality keep the internet free or does it not? And if you say free is too vague a word, I hear you, then give me details. What are the actual rules? Don't tell me this side says that and the other side says this. Which one is it? I know it would be so biased to actually look at the facts of what the proposal does. It's not an opinion. The proposal does something. Tell us what that is. And the reality is, of course, it would end the current system that we have on the internet, and it would allow the internet service providers to charge more for you to have the same speed or higher speed connection. So it would give them the ability to control the internet. So Andrew goes on to say, the last time NBC Nightly News had a segment on net neutrality before that April report was back on February 26th of 2015, the day that it was voted into existence, that Title II provision. So in 3 years, 2 reports. Interesting. Now, here at the Young Turks, maybe it's because we're affected by it more. No. Comcast is actually way more affected by it because they have billions of dollars on the line. But here at the Young Turks, we're also affected by it, and we've had a lot of reports on net neutrality. But somehow they just couldn't squeeze into the Nightly News. Okay, well, let's see if on the website where they have unlimited space, not just in a half-an-hour program, if they did better. Well, again, Jones reporting for TYT Politics says a similar lack of full disclosure about Pi's rollback announcement occurred on the same day on NBC News' website. NBC News tech reporter Alyssa Newcomb mentioned Comcast chairman and CEO Brian Roberts' desire for Title II net neutrality to disappear, but Newcomb's article did not contain any information on the company's lobbying on net neutrality. You would think that might be a little relevant if you're owned by Comcast. Okay, now let's move to MSNBC. He says, if you thought net neutrality's coverage was difficult to find on NBC News' limited hours of coverage, the topic has struggled to garner attention on 24/7 MSNBC, as Comcast was spending money in the background on the issue. A LexisNexis search has revealed that net neutrality hasn't received a full news segment on MSNBC this year in the wave of networks' endless Trump coverage, especially during the 7 to 10 p.m. primetime hours that are currently enjoying their best success ever. So you're telling me you run a cable station that goes for 24 hours a day, and you could not find time to do one full segment on net neutrality that would determine the fate of the internet? Is that a small issue? Is that the thinking there? Oh, that's a tiny little thing about whether you have freedom on the internet anymore. According to the people who are worked up about it and broke the record on number of comments on this issue, 5.1 million comments, they don't think it's a small issue. They think it's a giant issue, and a giant issue that your parent corporation is very much involved in. So shh, okay. MSNBC's website hasn't been much better on covering net neutrality. Its website has only mentioned net neutrality twice in articles in 2017, and both have come at the bottom of a Newslink roundup from Rachel Maddow's show producer, Steve Bannon. And neither post mentioned Comcast's lobbying spending on net neutrality. So wow, 2 footnotes in 2017 and no disclosure. Okay, now we'll go back to 2015. There, Rachel Maddow did do a good, interesting, thoughtful segment on net neutrality. Let's give you the rest. On their website, 4 articles were neutral news reports about the subject, including 2 on that same day, February 26, 2015 day. The other article on MSNBC's website about net neutrality in early 2015 was an opinion piece against it from a member of the conservative group Competitive Enterprise Institute. Again, none of these pieces mentioned any of Comcast's lobbying on net neutrality, primarily or with other issues, which in the fourth quarter of 2014 and the first quarter of 2015 combined to almost $1 million. So they put up 4 neutral articles on net neutrality, and then the one opinion piece they have on MSNBC is from a conservative group saying, net neutrality, who needs it? Especially back in 2015, they're pretending to be a progressive network, but yet the one piece of opinion they could find was against net neutrality. Fascinating, and yet no disclosure on their lobbying. Andrew Jones also looked into CNBC because they're a business station. They did cover it more, but again, no disclosures on Comcast's lobbying. And to be fair, let's give you Comcast's version of this as well. When asked for comment on why Comcast news channels haven't disclosed the company's lobbyist spending on net neutrality, Comcast Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications, Sina Fitzmaurice, stated that, quote, all of Comcast channels have complete editorial independence and no interference from Comcast. Okay, now, final thought on this is, why do so little stories on it? Because sometimes you do find the memos, but it's a hard thing to find, and oftentimes they're not written, of someone from headquarters going and saying, okay, this is a big deal for Comcast, there's billions of dollars on the line. MSNBC, I don't care what your brand is, I don't care what your ratings are, do not do stories about them, or if you do, say that killing net neutrality is awesome. They're very unlikely to write that memo unless they're painfully stupid. What happens instead is, and again, look, I don't want to overstate my tenure at MSNBC. I was there for about a year, but I got some lessons from being inside the building, which is that if you do things that are frowned upon, well, then you get a talking to. And everybody else in the building knows, not a good idea, I wouldn't go in that direction. So did the good folks at NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC know, hey, if we do a lot of stories telling you about how great net neutrality is and we shouldn't kill it, that might create a situation for our parent company to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars? Yeah, that might create a situation. So yes, they're aware of that. But most importantly, and what this story is mainly about is, if you're gonna cover the story, for at least give us a disclosure, which they at least did it in that one NBC News report case. They gave half a disclosure. Comcast owned by NBC. No, I shouldn't even say mumbling under their breath. They said Comcast owned by NBC, but it didn't tell you how much Comcast is on the side of killing net neutrality and how many millions of dollars they've spent to kill net neutrality. So can we at least get a little bit of disclosure? It's not too much to ask for. Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.